Welcome into another episode of the Laser Bros podcast. We are your hosts, Logan and Luke Lazarchik. Coming off of week 5, today we are talking about trade candidates and potential landing spots for those players, in addition to our week 6 predictions. But week 5 left the NFL kind of shorthanded with a lot of injuries happening and
Yeah.
a number of players being put on IR. Luke, what was kind of your reaction to, Justin Jefferson, James Conner, some of those players being, put on IR for at least the next 4 games?
It just sucks. I mean, Justin Jefferson is clearly the biggest impact, and with Kirk Cousins' contract situation and the way the Vikings are playing, they've sort of been pushed into like this have to win or this game against the Bears or you're kind of done mode. And, I don't know about Justin Fields. He's played 2 bad defenses, but Minnesota's not that good, and he's kind of feeling it. DJ Moore's feeling it. So, it's probably most impactful, and it kind of sucks. But I think a lot of stuff was found out this week. I think that a lot of stuff revealed itself on where teams are, what teams it's like, okay, we're probably done, and what teams have a shot. And so I think it was a very informative week. It always sucks with injuries. Devon A-Chain, or however you pronounce his last name. He should be A-Chain. You should just go by it.
Yeah, it's just easier to pronounce.
Yeah. But, it was a very revealing week, I'd say. That's my
opinion. I think you're kind of seeing how the NFL's shaping out to be in what teams are contenders and what teams, are adding those Caleb Williams sweepstakes. And I think because of injuries, I think a number of teams have entered those sweepstakes. Yeah. So I think the trade deadline will be very interesting, and draft will be also very interesting because I think there will be so many teams that will be in contention for the number 1 pick.
Yeah, and Drake Mace looking really good. So
and Michael Penix too. I mean, there's a lot of good quarterbacks in this draft.
Shadour's good, but we'll see what happens there. Yeah, Quinn Ewers, he had 2 bad picks, but he overall was good. He just had a couple of mistakes.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure how I feel about Quinn Ewers yet. I'm kind of leaning towards he's going to have to be a sit on the bench for most of his rookie season, if not all, and kind of develop somebody. So
I'd say 1 year rest.
But we will get right into it. So we will start out with our trade candidates. And today we came up with 6 names that we think could highly be traded and kind of where they could land.
Yeah.
So the first one is Kirk Cousins, kind of obvious name. And we kind of already touched base on that of where the team is at this point of the year. And, they kind of show their cards that they weren't going to have Kirk Cousins as a long-term quarterback by not giving him an extension this past offseason. And with him entering last year of his contract and not giving an extension, it kind of seems the writing's already on the wall that he will be gone. But what kind of your thoughts if he gets traded at all, and what kind of teams could be interested in him?
I think Kirk Cousins, I'm not going to say Lillard, Damian Lillard. We always talked about as like the most underrated guy, and I was like, everyone loves Damian Lillard. So like, bring it back because Kirk Cousins is not as good as Damian Lillard is in the NBA, but he's kind of like that where no one's talking crap on Kirk Cousins anymore. Everyone kind of likes him. I like Kirk Cousins.
I think it's because of the documentary though.
That does help, but he is an awesome guy. But I also think because of play, I mean, what else? He has one man, and he's just giving him the ball. He's doing a great job of it, and now he's hurt. So, now there's Hawkinson, Addison, Osborne. So they have good weapons, but excuse me. But it's interesting. Some teams like the Jets, if Zach Wilson's looking all right, but if they ever want to say, let's try to take this year, but then the tough thing is Aaron Rodgers, if he does heal early, I know he got the same thing as Cam Akers.
I'm not going to buy that Rodgers comes back early. I think it's all talk.
I don't know. They'd have to make the playoffs. I say playoffs, or like it'd be very end of the year. So if that's possible, you sort of take away the Kirk Cousins. But then maybe like the Patriots, if they want to save it. My boy Mac he's not looking good.
He's not good. And finally,
let's just put this for the record. The offensive line's not playing well. He does not have good weapons. So he's put in a very poor spot. He's not doing well with it. But so that's another option. I have a team. He would be a 1-year rental because they already have a quarterback, but he's hurt right now, and they're being weird about the injury. What if for 1 year, the Cleveland Browns, if Deshaun Watson's really hurt, 1 year Kirk Cousins, what if the shoulder thing, they're being weird about it because he's like cleared for practice, but he's not practicing his podium, and they announced PJ Walker's the official backup. What if this shoulder is like really bad?
I don't
1 year.
I don't know. I think at this point it's just you gave Deshaun Watson a fully guaranteed deal.
It's a full 1 year thing. 1 year. You trade for him, like you're here for a year.
I don't know. I think the obvious answer you didn't talk about is Atlanta. And I know it doesn't matter. He had a solid game.
He had a pretty good game.
I don't think he's the answer at all. I think Atlanta is a team where if they play a team where they can run the ball and control the game, Desmond Ritter's fine. But am I going to trust him to have to win games where he has to throw? Yeah. No.
It's a little if I say you have to give Ritter the full till the trade deadline time, though. I mean, he's had a couple nice games, a couple bad games. He was over 300 yards.
But the bad games are really bad.
No, I think you got to give him till the trade deadline. And then I think it's 3 games, and they're all winnable. If he wins 3 or 2, you probably keep him. If he loses 2, you say, okay, we can go get Kirk. I'm not going to say it's bad. I'm just going to say I would personally wait on Ritter. At the same time, no, depending on what you can get for Kirk, I like Kirk a lot. So if they traded for Kirk today, I wouldn't hate it. But I think you have to wait a little. But so I'm iffy on Atlanta.
So 2 things. One, the only reason I push back on the Jets is there's so many variables there. One,
I agree, yeah.
They definitely don't want to go on Zach Wilson. And at this point, they're not going to. If they're going to go on Zach Wilson, they would have traded for a quarterback or signed somebody like Carson Wentz a few weeks ago.
But I think there's a difference between Kirk and Carson Wentz.
Well, of course. But I think at this point, they're just going to ride out Zach Wilson.
I believe
if they make the playoffs, they put Rodgers in. But the thing is, if they make the playoffs, do you really want to take Zach Wilson? And I know Rodgers is definitely a better quarterback than Zach Wilson. But if they get to the playoffs, that means Zach Wilson has played pretty good football. Where at that point, do I want to take him out?
You're putting Aaron Rodgers back in.
Yeah, sure. You definitely probably do put him back in. But I think the Jets just don't make a lot of sense to me because now you have Kirk Cousins and Aaron Rodgers in the quarterback room, and then you have Zach Wilson. It's just kind of a weird situation. And then 2, the second thing I want to talk about, what is the type of compensation that the Vikings should be looking for Kirk Cousins? If let's say they get 4th round pick, are you even moving Kirk Cousins for a 4th or a 3rd?
No.
Or are you trying to get a 2nd, or maybe you get a 3rd round pick but it can be turned into a 2nd based on statistics or whatnot?
I think that's probably the route. I think if I were just to put my own value on it, because he is a 1-year rental, so you'd have to sign to extension, and that could be expensive. Mm-hmm. I don't know what Kirk Cousins is going to do. He's always demanded a good amount of money, but
I mean, we've seen quarterbacks like Daniel Jones make $40 million. So
yeah, so he's probably above 40, probably 45. I'd say either a 2nd that turns into a 1st.
If I would say, I'm not doing that. I am not doing that.
The 1st could be we make the championship game. Or you can have a 3rd.
I don't know. You know me. My opinion about Kirk. I'm not huge on Kirk Cousins. I think in a system like Atlanta, he'd be perfect. But I don't think he's going to elevate pieces around him and carry a team.
I don't know.
I think he needs to be in a very good situation.
I think he can elevate. I don't know. Obviously, elevate has its. So if he's
there's different tiers of elevation.
He's taking it here. He's not taking it.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe a 3rd that turns into a 2nd if you make the playoffs. In a 1st if you go to the Super Bowl. Maybe something like that.
The most I'm giving up is probably a 3rd that turns into a 2 or 2 2s. I'm not risking a 1st round pick.
Well, 1st round pick for a 1 year. If you win the Super Bowl, you get a 1st. You trade away.
But the teams we're talking about, what Atlanta? I don't think wins the Super Bowl. Let's say it goes there.
Probably not.
Jets, it's
it's hard to trade for a quarterback mid-year, and it's hard to trade for a quarterback mid-year and then win the Super Bowl. What if a team like Pittsburgh just said Kenny's not it?
Yeah, that was a team I was thinking about because Kenny Pickett I don't think is the answer. But at the same time, Pittsburgh's an organization that doesn't give up on players, and they're very loyal to their coach. I mean, they haven't even fired Matt Canada yet, and the fans have been asking for.
They were saying fire Canada at the Penguins game.
Yeah, so I just think Pittsburgh makes a little bit of sense, but at the same time, I don't think they're going to do it. And at this point, if I'm Minnesota. Even if I win this week means nothing to me. I'm trading him regardless. You already weren't – because here's the thing with Justin Jefferson. there is a non-0% chance that we've seen the last of him this year. He may be done for the year. Hamstring injuries with receivers, soft tissue injuries with receivers tend to last longer than they usually do. And if they're losing, here's their next 4 games.
Yeah, I'm looking.
I'll say next 5. They have Chicago, and I think Bears have actually a legitimate chance of winning that game.
Oh yeah, I think it's a 50-50 without.
And if you're betting, I think it's good value. Then you have San Francisco. That's a loss.
That's just a loss. Yeah.
At Green Bay,
who knows?
I think Green Bay's team is better than Vikings, though.
I agree.
And you at Atlanta, who I like Atlanta against Minnesota, and then New Orleans, who has a great defense. I think you maybe win 2 of those games, maybe 2 of those games. I don't think you go 3-2 in those games. I think it's either 2 and 3 or 1 and 4.
New Orleans have a great defense. First off,
I think when you have I know you could talk about the teams they face in that stretch, but when you
Baker, 28%, 246, 3 touchdowns. Mike Evans got hurt mid-game. Godwin torched them.
Okay. Mike Evans got hurt mid-game. They will not have Justin Jefferson.
No, they can have Justin Jefferson because it's 4 games. And
to be honest, the fact that they put him in the IR so quickly,
that is concerning.
Because usually with star players, like let them practice. Let's see how it feels in practice. They didn't even test it out. They did test on Monday, and by Tuesday morning, he was already on the IR. So I don't think he's going to be back anytime soon. And especially if they lose to Chicago, they're 1-5, and you're going to lose to San Francisco. You will be 1-6. So what becomes better? Like I think at this point you trade Kirk Cousins and you start tanking for one of these top quarterbacks in the draft.
So they're 1-4. They can be 2-4, then 2-5, 3-5.
An interesting thought I had the other day. So Chicago, I think regardless they get the first pick because I think Carolina is just going to end up with the worst record. Even if Chicago finds a way to win 6-7 games, 5, 6, 7 games, I think they still get the first pick. Now you have Minnesota. In the NFC North, you could have Caleb Williams, Drake May / Michael Penix, Jared Goff, and Love. Green Bay, I think, is suddenly going to have the worst quarterback in that division, if that's how it plays out.
Wait, so you're saying
Caleb to Chicago, Drake May / Michael Penix to Minnesota.
I'm still giving Love some – okay, so the 2 rookies, Goff's better than Love. I think that's obvious. And then
Jared Goff. I think Love's the worst
if I had to pick between those quarterbacks, I still give Love a shot because I think I've seen enough where he has potential, but it is his first year starting. So I'm giving Love leeway, but yeah, I'd agree he'd be the last guy you'd want.
Yeah.
It's very interesting. I think if you lose against Chicago, I think it's over. If you win against Chicago, then you just sort of take the loss against San Fran like you're just going to lose. And then that Green Bay game defines it. You have to beat Green Bay and Chicago if you want to keep Kirk. You have to beat them both. Because Atlanta,
both those games on the road.
Green Bay's not that good at home anymore. I mean,
no, but it's still on the road.
I know, but I'm just saying if you beat them both, because then you have Atlanta. I like Atlanta, but you can beat them
on the road too. I mean, also that you would like one of those games to be at home.
Agreed. But you have Atlanta, then you have New Orleans, who you can beat, Denver, who you can beat, Chicago, who you can beat, bye week, Vegas, who you can beat. Cincy, by that point, I think will be settled. Then you do have Detroit.
Yeah, you have Detroit twice into the final 3 weeks of Detroit. I think at this point you got to rip the Band-Aid off, and you got to start thinking about the future.
I'd wait it out though. out.
There's no point of them being in no man's land, and then they miss out on one of these. I think you have to get one of these top 3 quarterbacks in the draft.
I agree, but I'm not trading him this week. Or if I lose Chicago,
no. If you lose Chicago, I'm definitely trading him. But my point is, regardless of the result, I would move off him anyway. If trade deadline, I'm moving off him anyway. Even if I'm moving off of them.
If I beat Chicago, lose to San Fran, and then beat Green Bay, I think, and Justin Jefferson's coming back, I think I'm keeping him. He's too good.
It's interesting. Our next name, another interesting name. He's been a controversial player, just talent-wise, and hasn't really panned out the way they want it to be. Jerry Jeudy. The Broncos 1-4, and there was a report, I believe yesterday or Monday, where players are kind of bracing for a teardown and a complete overhaul of this team. So Jerry Jeudy's an interesting name. He's still young. They did pick up his 5th-year option. But I think for a team I think Jeudy still has a wide receiver 1 potential. He has a talent, but I don't think it's going to work out in Denver. But like I said, injuries, and he just hasn't been consistent. So what teams do you see going after Jeudy?
Okay, so I don't think he's wide receiver 1 potential. I think he's wide receiver 2. His ceiling's like a T. Higgins. That's his top ceiling. So Initially, I'm looking at teams that have a 1, and I could use a 2. My first thought is Detroit.
I think Detroit would be a great fit.
Detroit has obviously Amon-Ra, 1. You have your tight end 1. You have 2 running backs who you like. Jameson Williams, he dropped a pass. We'll see what happens. They have some – Josh Reynolds gets a good job done. He does some work, but you probably want someone a little more talented in there as well. And so I just think I don't think he's a perfect fit in the receiver room because they're all kind of small and he's thin.
That's the thing with Detroit is that Amon-Ra is basically a slot guy. Judy, I think, can play outside and inside, but they're both smaller guys. And then Jameson Williams, I think, is just at this point just a field stretcher. I don't think he's. I think they missed. I think they missed on Jameson Williams. I think he's going to be a bust. I think at this point he's just a down the field type player.
Yeah, some people said it. I wasn't a fan of Jameson Williams. I don't know, it's him and Henry Ruggs, who obviously is not in the league anymore, but out of Bama, I was not fans because they're just sort of speedsters. Mm-hmm. But no, I agree. Giants, if he does want to be a wide receiver 1, Giants, because they
I think Giants that was another team that I had in mind. I think Giants, at this point, you got to take a bunch of lottery tickets and just try to grab as many receivers, I think, as possible.
First off, they have a problem. Everyone's hurt this week. Even Daniel Jones hurt. The offensive line finally killed him. They finally killed him. I can't believe he even survived this long. That offensive line sucks. It's just not good at blocking. It's 3 backups, but I don't care. They're hurting. They're killing my boy. But if he wants to be a wide receiver 1, I think Daniel Jones would just be like, okay, I got to hyper target him, and he probably would because I think we've seen Jones is willing to do that at times. We got to Waller more this week, but Waller older, he's obviously not a 1. So, and then back to our previous discussion, if my Minnesota wins 2 games, I don't think Judy's bad for Minnesota. It's out there.
The thing is, if you have a receiver room, because I think KJ Osborne, I think Addison should be ahead of KJ Osborne on the depth chart and get more routes. So if you have a receiver room of we'll see if Jefferson comes back. But if you have a receiver room of Addison, Jefferson, and Judy, I think it's a very good receiving core.
The route running is insane in that.
Yeah. I think at this point, Minnesota, it's just tricky. I think they're going to be sellers at the trade deadline. And I don't think they have many pieces to sell other than Kirk Cousins. But I think at this point, they're just going to roll out their team. I don't think they're going to buy anybody because I think if they do trade Kirk Cousins, they're just going full into the tank.
Well, yeah, this is the hypothetical they keep Kirk, obviously.
I think – and another team I think makes a lot of sense is the Panthers. I think Panthers, they want a receiver, and they need somebody with some talent. It's Adam Thielen. Adam Thielen is by far the wide receiver 1.
He's like balling out, which is wild.
But they need somebody else in that room. And I do have an interesting trade later involving this team. But, yeah, I think the Panthers make a lot of sense. And I think Giants, I think it's a no-brainer that they have to make a move at receiver. I don't think they can stay pat with where they are in the receiver room. And Darren Waller at this point, I'm done with him. He's always hurt. And he hasn't been productive.
Yeah, you can't.
He's always hurt, and he hasn't been productive. So I think Giants make a lot of sense. And I think if I had to pick a team, it would be Carolina or the Giants who I think pull off this trade.
Yeah, if I had to pick one team, I think it'd be the Giants. Even though I think Detroit, I think they like Reynolds enough to where they're comfortable. But if I were them, I'd do it. And then Minnesota, as I said, I kind of like. What you're saying about Waller, it's like. I think he can be a nice option if he's like your third receiving option on the team. If you have 2 nice receivers.
But they brought him in to be the guy.
Well, yeah, that's asking probably just too much of him anyways. Mm-hmm. So it's just it wasn't going to work. And it doesn't help that it's not like he has a steady number 2 guy behind him. I don't even know who's the second best option taking out Saquon. Wendell Robinson, who just come back. So, yeah, it's a tough one there in New York.
Another interesting name, and another player who I believe is on his final year of his rookie deal. Is he on his 5th year, Brian Burns? Is he on his? Is he on the 5th year? Was he he was a first round pick, wasn't he? Or am I?
Pretty sure he was.
Okay, I believe he's on his 5th year. I believe they picked it up because he's being paid $16 million this year, and he's not on the books next year. So they had to pick it up. Interesting name, a lot of talent, and there's always been rumors and storylines about him and the team not getting on terms for a new contract. So what teams and this player is involved in the trade that we're talking about pre-show. But I'll let you start on what teams you kind of think Brian Burns goes to or has
First
potential
off,
of landing at.
shout out Brian Burns. I went to high school with him. Different Brian Burns. So not the NFL Brian Burns. But my first team, they're the same name, Logan. I mean, but my first team is Atlanta. Atlanta has yet to I thought the pass rush was going to be much better with Bud Dupree and Calais Campbell. I don't know how many sacks they have. I'm going to pull it up right now. If you watch it, sometimes I think they have 5 sacks. They have 5 sacks. David Onyemata leads them with 1.5. I mean, Dupree has
they're second to last in sacks this year.
Grady DeJarrett has half a sack. I think Calais Campbell, he doesn't have a sack, and he's at 99 career sacks, so he's trying to get his 100th. But Brian Burns, I mean, you're not paying your running back yet. You're not paying your receiver, your tight end, or your quarterback. You paid some linemen. You're not paying anyone on your defense a ton. You're not paying your best defensive player and the cornerback. Why am I blanking?
AJ Terrell.
Yeah. You paid Jesse Bates. You did pay Jesse Bates. Jesse Bates, he's been awesome.
He's been a great addition to the
He nearly had another pick that may have gone to the house, so maybe he's the best defense player. But so you sort of have some nice stuff in the secondary there. And Akuda, I know he's back. I don't know how he's been doing. I think Trey Flower has been solid in the secondary. But they just don't get a pass rush on people, really. I think they finally forced Stroud to, have to move in the pocket more, but they weren't sacking him. So you could trade for him.
If you were watching that game, Stroud was picking up 20 to 25 yards almost every other pass. It was I think your secondary, you got the best secondary in the world. But if you don't have a pass rush, it's very hard to guard for 4
they got
or 5
a lot of
seconds.
chunk plays. They got
exactly,
a lot of So they could just use a star, and maybe that opens up Calais Campbell and Grady Jarrett. I mean, I don't obviously watch game film at all times in the 22 or all 22 or whatever. I assume Grady Jarrett's still a next level defensive tackle, but I mean, I haven't seen it. So maybe he's not. I mean, he's in his 9th year, so maybe he's not what he once was. That could be very possible. He was never an astounding pass rusher, but he's still good at pass rushing, more of a run defender. But they need someone in there to step up, and third down, I get to the quarterback. And Brian Burns is perfect for that. He has 4 sacks this year on a struggling defense. Teams run against Carolina, so it's hard to get sacks, but he's just perfect. And then I sort of went on a little Atlanta tangent there, but Houston, him and Will Anderson, I think that could be nice. And then a team we tried to trade for him a couple of years ago, and Carolina should have accepted the trade, the 2 first-round picks from Los Angeles Rams. The Rams have a good team. They have Aaron Donald, and they have everyone's just playing nice over there, but no one's playing special on defense, just Aaron Donald. And then players they're playing their role, but nothing great. So maybe another star and Brian Burns would elevate them a little bit more on defense to help out Stafford, Puka, and Cooper Kupp.
So one team that I think, and this team has 16 sacks this year, which is 4th in the NFL. Mm-hmm. But I think Seattle would be a great fit for Brian Burns. Get that premier pass rusher that the team's missing, and you add Brian Burns to that defense, which is a very young defense. I really like that fit for Seattle. And I think Seattle, this year they're not going to win division because San Francisco has just been really good. But, San Francisco, they have a lot of talent, but in a few years, that talent's going to be, Debo will be 29, 30 in a couple of years. Christian McCaffrey, he's very good, but you see with running backs and you see with his workload, there can be injury at any point. It's kind of an old team, but at the same time, they do have those young superstars. But I think Seattle in a couple of years, especially if you get Brian Burns, they could be testing for the NFC and winning the NFC at some point if they keep building this thing how they're building it. So I think Brian Burns is a great fit there. And then the trade that I wanted to bring up, and I want to hear your thoughts on this. So it would be between the Panthers and the Broncos. And I know the Broncos are in a state right now. Because the Panthers want a receiver. So what if the Panthers sent Brian Burns for Jerry Jeudy, a second, and maybe another, mid-round pick?
I don't think it's bad, but if they're going to ship off someone who we're going to talk about later, possibly Justin Simmons and Garrett Bowles, they'd have to have
because here's the thing with Denver.
But if you're
Denver's
shipping off
defense has
Judy,
had such a drop, and I think the reason why Denver's defense is so bad because they have some good talent in the secondary. They have no pass rushers.
yeah, but then you're still like trying to win this year, and if you trade Judy,
no, I think Brian Burns is also a piece that you trade for him, and you're definitely paying him. And I know with Russell's contract, it's probably tough, but I think if you trade Brian Burns, that is a great piece you can get for, and as long as they don't get their first round pick, and you could add Brian Burns to next year's team, I think that's a great start to retooling this team for next year.
It's interesting. I mean, it's weird with Sean. The Broncos are such a weird team, so it's hard to imagine like them train player to like tank, but then they get a player who's much better back in return. Because you sort of want those picks, though. So I don't hate it.
Because here's the thing. Okay, fine. Let's say they do that trade.
Really convinced to do it.
Let's say they do that trade. Then you ship off Justin Simmons for picks. Then you could trade Cortland Sutton as well, and you could start with Marvin Mims and makeshift your because Sean Payton drafted Marvin Mims.
No, Marvin Mims is a good player.
So I think there's a chance that he ships off, even though they picked up Judy's fifth-year option, they ship off Judy and Sutton and kind of restart the wide receiver room, and you grab a pass rusher next year where you don't have to use your first-round pick on a pass rusher. Okay. If they're bad enough and they're at the top of the draft, a quarterback or they need offensive lineman as well, I think grabbing Brian Burns would be a great addition just for
one point. I don't know. Obviously, it's different players. Does Brian Burns want to go to a crappy team? He's been with the Panthers, who haven't been good. He may be like, because I wonder if they trade him, he's going to have some type of say, or there's going to have to be like, he's probably going to have some type of say because they're probably going to be like contract negotiations.
I mean, you pair because in the league, if you have a good pass rusher.
I know, but who says he wants to do it?
I know, I realize that, but if you have Brian Burns and Pat Surtain on the same defense, that's a good building.
I know, but they're not going to be good next year.
I don't think, but Panthers aren't going to be good next year.
Yeah, but he's going to be a free agent. Would he rather go to Broncos?
What if they decide to tag him? If I'm him, I'm taking my chances.
They'll probably trade him to someone who can win. Like the thing with I said Houston, who's not great, but Houston next year they can win their division. I don't know with Denver yet. That's an issue.
I think that's kind of a stretch to say Houston will win their division next year. They're still Jacksonville.
I'm not saying they will, but it looks like you have a quarterback. You have an offensive line. They're just all hurt. They're going to come back.
I still think they're a couple of years away from actually competing because Jacksonville, you have Trevor Lawrence there, and they have kind of all the pieces on offense.
I'm not saying they will win their division. I said a string of luck. I mean, the offense is going to be mostly settled in next year.
Like I get what you're saying, but I think it's kind of what the trade thing I made up. It kind of I think both teams, both those positions, they need him pretty badly. So I think it kind of work out for both teams. And I know Brian Burns maybe doesn't want to go there, but at the same time, it may just work out that way.
If you trade for Brian Burns, you have to get him to sign an extension.
No, that's what I'm saying. Yeah,
you have to convince Brian Burns, like, oh yeah, sign extension with Denver. So that's.
I mean, Denver's new owners have a lot of money, so I don't think they'll be.
Okay, but there's a salary cap.
Oh, I realize that. Yes, yeah, but I think it would be a good fit. I know winning is important for players, but I still think it would make sense for both sides.
I'd probably say no if I'm the Panthers, I say yes. But if I'm Brian Burns, I just don't see it happening because.
So you think both teams would say yes? You think the player?
Yeah, I think Brian Burns is the obstacle. Yeah.
Okay. Next player. This player was just put on IR, James Conner. So I don't know what his trade value could be at this point, but the Cardinals, after losing to the Bengals, I mean there was a little bit of hope that they could win that game during the week last week, that they could steal another win. But I think at this point you got to start looking towards the future, and Caleb Williams is definitely a player that could be in their plans. So where do you think James Conner could land? And I know at this point you might as well trade him and just play with the talent that you have and try to tank for Caleb.
I respect the hell out of what they've done there, but it probably just is best. He's an older running back, probably has a year or two left. I respect what they've done, but go ship him. Can you trade someone while they're on the IR? I mean,
to be honest, I don't know if you can, but or if they stay on the IR for the other team.
I think you maybe could. Yeah, I think you could.
I think you can, to be quite honest.
Let me Google search it.
But yeah, I think James Conner, I believe he's 28, and At this point, he has a lot of tread on tires. I don't think he's going to be able to help. He's not going to be helping Arizona at this point, especially when he comes back. They'll probably lose all 4 games. But I think a team like the Packers makes a lot of sense. We kind of talked about this last week of how they want to be a team that, ground and pounds the ball. And A.J. Dillon is supposed to be that type of running back, but he's just not that good. And I think pairing Aaron Jones with James Conner would be a great running back tandem. And after watching Packers on Monday night, they definitely are a team that needs to lean on the running game and the defense. So I think James Conner with the Green Bay Packers makes a lot of sense.
I actually do think – I don't think they can, but I think they could still trade him because I think he could be activated before the trade deadline. So
okay.
I think he can be activated 1, 2 – maybe. Maybe it's all null and void. Maybe it's not. But a spot I'd say you're talking about the Packers. That is interesting. Aaron Jones. Obviously, you sort of move off A.J. Dillon at that point, who finally had a good game. Finally,
but it's like when you watch him run, he's not violent enough for his size. Like
he does not.
He goes. I don't know. I think if you could get James Conner in there, because I don't know when Aaron Jones can come back. I mean, it's a hamstring injury, and I know he played the game before, but those are this type of injuries, like we talked about earlier, Justin Jefferson, where soft tissue injuries, they just linger, or that you could easily re-aggravate it. So I think the Packers were interested in Jonathan Taylor, so they're definitely valuing the running back position. So I think Packers, should go after James Conner. I think it would actually make a lot of sense.
I think one team, just maybe in running backs in general, since we don't know if Conner could truly be traded, we'd have to dive into it more. But James Conner, running back, Ravens, I think it's obvious. You can't keep throwing out Kenyon Drake and Justice Hill and Gus Edwards. No, I picked up Keaton Mitchell for a dynasty team, so if he's good, then, But realistically, Ravens, I mean, Lamar needs some help. He had 8 drops last week. I mean, they should have won. They had 8 drops. I still think Lamar's playing better than people are. I don't think people are really thinking about it, but I think he's playing well. Another one, Tampa Bay. I mean, Rachaad White, Keyshawn Vaughn, they're not much. Or you can keep Rachaad White as a pass catcher, but if you could just add to Tampa's offense a good rushing threat, like James Conner.
I think a goal line and red zone player too.
Yeah, I think it'd just make the offense simpler, and it'd take a little – even though Baker's playing well, it'd take even more pressure off of Baker. So I think a running back, James Conner, say Derrick Henry hypothetically. Derrick Henry is a big one, though. Just a running back to go help Tampa, I think, would be – I think – it could make them near – they're probably already favorites for a division, but it could put them a little step ahead of Atlanta if they don't do anything.
This wasn't a team that I thought of until right now, and this may be, a little bit out there idea, but what would you think about the Chiefs potentially adding James Conner? Because that right back room outside Pacheco, I mean, McKinnon at this point is being used as a pass catcher back, and I still don't know why Clyde Edwards-Helaire is getting snaps. So I think it seems like
Clyde.
Because early in the season, but I think they don't want to, push Pacheco because I think he's always running at 1,000 miles per hour. And even when you listen to Andy Reid and other players during press conferences, they sometimes have to hold Pacheco down and, just tell him you don't have to go full speed every time. So I think they're holding him back just to keep him fresh. And I think James Conner could be a great addition to that team to keep Pacheco fresh for the postseason run.
That's not where – if I'm the Chiefs, I'm not putting my resources to running back. I'm putting my resources to a receiver. So I could see where he would benefit because he has a similar running style. He's probably more methodical in it.
And then goal line, you got Pacheco and James Conner in your goal line.
I think he could possibly teach Pacheco some things. He's a
little bit out there idea.
But he's more methodical. But it's not bad, but I think you need to figure out receiver first.
Mm-hmm. Next name, and we've been talking about this team a lot, the Denver Broncos and Justin Simmons. Justin Simmons has been struggling a bit this year. And like we said, Broncos at this point need to tear down the team and rebuild it. So where's the place where Justin Simmons fits and can be effective?
I thought of 2 teams. It's sort of tough with safeties. One team, I think Packers, they don't have great safeties. They have some good corners, but safeties, I know Savage is hurt. You have But who's the guy who got the pick?
For who? Sorry?
For the Packers at the pick against the Raiders.
Against the Raiders?
He always seems to get picks. It's just he always comes out of nowhere. Ford, Rudy Ford. It's like that guy gets picks, but I don't know how good of a player he is. So if they want to go all in their defense, which they should also fire Joe Barry if they want to do that, because not great.
Yeah, he's I was just frustrated watching that. Like when they put Preston Smith on.
Yeah, what on like a
Devontae.
It's Justin Houston Steelers playoff games flashbacks. He's guarding Antonio Brown on like an out route. Oh, that was the worst. Bob little handshake. But no, I like the Packers. I think that's just like we want someone back there keeping everything in line because I know you have Campbell, but he's been out. But once he comes back, that can make you a really talented defense.
Mm-hmm.
And so I like that. And then the Rams again, they do have Russ East, former Wildcat, starting in the secondary, but they don't have. Again, it's sort of similar to what I said about Brian Burns. They don't have stars. Justin Simmons probably isn't costing a ton. Add more talent, someone in the secondary to, sort of just help smooth things out and help try to bring the defense to the offensive level to where maybe Stafford. Man, if you watch Stafford, he's just like trying to fit throws into everything. It is nuts. I think that's where he gets his picks because they get hit up in the air because it's like he has to hit perfectly. And then, but if you can just calm it down a little bit for them, I think that'd be good. So Packers, Rams, what do you got? It's a little tougher one.
I like the Cowboys. They had a lot of injuries in the secondary this past week, and losing I forget his name, Trayvon Diggs.
Yeah,
I mean, it takes a hit to the defense, and the Cowboys, they have a great pass rush and a great front seven, but their secondary I think is a little bit vulnerable. And I know Stephon Gilmore is a really good corner, but he was supposed to be the number 2. But I think if you get somebody like Justin Simmons in the back end of the defense, I think that would also be a good fit for Simmons in Dallas. And Dallas, they need to. If I'm Dallas, I don't know what receivers going to be available, but like we didn't mention it, but I think Judy to Dallas also makes sense.
I briefly thought about Judy to Dallas.
And like CeeDee Lamb and Judy, that's a good – because Brandon Cooks has not been what they thought he was going to be.
I don't think they're – I still think
this is the thing. Michael McCarthy, I don't think he's a good play caller. Mm-hmm. And that was the reason I picked him to finish 3rd in the division, and it's probably really stupid now that I picked Giants to finish 2nd, even though I chose with my guts and – Giants are not good.
Don't tell me about it.
But I think Justin Simmons. It's a tough name in trades just to come up with hypothetical landing spots. But I think the Cowboys could also be a fit, and maybe the Eagles. I mean, Eagles secondary has also been struggling a bit. But I don't know where he'd fit.
They ain't gonna afford them. I mean, they pay so many people.
I mean, yeah.
That's the thing. I think Cowboys don't they would need to pay CD and.
That's why I think Dak. They need to move off Dak.
I'm at the point where keeping Dak will be so expensive. Like you're not getting him on a discount at this point. I still think
it's $59 million for next year.
I could see Dak moving on and still being pretty good, but I think Dak. I don't know. There's teams who need quarterbacks. We mentioned.
Okay, but those teams that need quarterbacks are probably not all of them are good teams.
I know.
Dak Prescott needs to be or like he has to be a system quarterback. He cannot elevate the players around him.
I think he could still go somewhere next year, and there can be teams that improve themselves. What if? I mean, I don't know.
What I don't know what teams would even be interested.
In a year, the landscape's completely different. I still think Dak's a good quarterback. He's a good quarterback. I think he needs to go though because he has some issues. I think put him with more of a guru. But that's a later discussion, more landscape. But I agree. I think that it's over in Dallas. And Justin Simmons, I mean, it could work. Just Simmons is tough. I like Dallas more.
It's a tough name. Mm-hmm. Last name that we'll be talking about today before we get into week 6 and our picks for the upcoming week, Chase Young. And this is another player where, when he first got drafted, supposed to be a superstar. And his rookie year, he won Rookie Defensive Player of the Year. And there's been points where he's looked really good, and then he tore his ACL, and injuries and just inconsistency. I mean, the fact that he couldn't dominate against a Chicago Bears offensive line that's already not that good and had 3 starters out and couldn't do anything, I think kind of shows you where he is at this point in his career. And they did not pick up his 5th-year option, so I think he's definitely on the trade table for Washington. This is another tough one for me, but what are some places where you think Chase Young could be serviceable?
I've never been the biggest fan of Chase Young as a player. Out of the draft, I thought it was a little much. And then He's actually had a really high amount of pressures this year, but still, I'm not too high on him. Serviceable player with some upside. I know you mentioned them for Brian Burns, but I think Seattle, because I think Seattle maybe could go more of the not as great but higher. He doesn't. I'm not gonna say he has a higher potential. Brian Burns. Brian Burns is
No,
Brian
Brian Burns.
Player who won't cost as much. I think Seattle could do that. So I don't think that's bad because they do need a pass rush. This would be interesting because you may sort of be a million defeat on a pick, but the Raiders, that's next to.
The Tyree Wilson pick just feels like one of those picks where
it's just not.
I didn't like the pick. I didn't like the pick personally, and it just felt like Big 12 pass rushers generally don't work out.
I covered the K-State Texas Tech game, and I think that was around the time you were first hearing about Tyree Wilson, and I don't recall seeing him much. I don't recall.
Yeah, I think he's just kind of those hyper athletic players, but I don't think he's productive. And I think he is just kind of like a power rusher. I don't think he has.
He may take time to develop, but I don't think he's going to be any star type of thing. He may take time to develop and may become a fine player. But he could back up. Teams have rotations. He could be a rotation. Max Crosby, because it's more about you need to get someone to help Max Crosby. Because I sort of feel like even though they're not great, he's like a lifer there. I don't think he's leaving. So you need to get him someone else who can, like, on a certain day, be the guy. Maybe not half the time, but maybe 4 games a year, Chase Young is the guy causing issues. So I don't think that's bad, and maybe that can let Tyree Wilson take a step back. Maybe you can learn some things from Young, who's had a similar but more productive start. And then, so I think that's an interesting one. And then Tennessee, that's sort of, I think, a little random, but they have like a solid pass rush. Obviously, Jeffrey Simmons leads them in the middle, but then they have some solid pass rushers, nothing special. But maybe if they add Young with the defensive line that has some depth, he can come in and maybe try to work off of them. And, they're in a weird spot. They don't really know. I don't think that's one of the few teams I talked about at the beginning, how we know where teams are. I don't think we know Tennessee yet, but I think that could be. What were your thoughts on the Tennessee one? Because that was one I thought of, and I was.
That's a tricky one for me. Tennessee's just such a weird team to me, where I think they're in this no man's land, kind of middle ground, where I don't think they're contenders, and I don't see them winning a division, but I also don't think they're bad enough to, get a really high pick in the draft. I kind of see them like pick 12 through 15 or something like that.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting team. I think at this point Tennessee needs to address. I think they need to get another receiver. I know they've got Hopkins, but Burks is always hurt.
He's hurt. He's having.
I know, but it's like at this point, I think there's other areas of the team that they have to look at before they look at pass rusher. Now, if it's like trade deadline, they can't find any trade partners for a player of need, then yeah, go get Chase Young if he's still out there. But I don't really see the fit there. But I get where you're coming from, but I don't really see the fit there.
Okay, yeah.
A team, and I know we talk about this, and you're going to disagree with me. And this is it's going to sound like a homer pick, but the Chase Young to the Chiefs, I still think makes for a 1 year, just 1 year.
But we have pass rushers.
Okay, George Karlaftis has been good.
Okay, but Chase Young play more. Charles Amanue, Mike. We don't have studs, but
I know. But if you pair, because here's the thing, I think Chase Young, you can probably get him for 5th, 6th round pick.
No, you can't. What? 4th? I think he's been good enough this year. He's a 3rd or a 2nd.
Okay, let's meet in the middle. Let's say 4th. Let's say you give for a 3rd or 4th. Okay, you're not gonna have a 2nd.
Again,
especially when you have to pay him. If
you're not paying,
we're not paying. But if you give a 2nd and you don't pay him,
he's a 3rd or that can move up to a 2nd.
I say 3rd or 4th.
There's gonna be Charles Amanue, Felix, George Karlaftis, Mike Dana.
If you pair Chase Young with Chris Jones, though, just for a playoff run and
the back half of the whole point is there's already a rotation, and then are we gonna pay him when we have Karlaftis?
No, that's my point. That's why you give up a later pick, because this is a 1 year and it's for a Super Bowl run.
Someone else will give up more who thinks he's.
I'm not trusting Felix in his first year.
I know that, but he's like he can be the 4th pass rusher off the edge. Karlaftis, Charles Amanue, Mike Dana. He can be the fourth guy. 4 pass rushers off the edge. Because you're trading for Chase Young and you can't sign him further. Because first off, we need to sign Chris Jones.
That's my point, and that's why I'm saying you give up a later round pick.
He's going to go up for more than a later round pick.
I really don't. I don't know.
More than a fifth or he's at least a third. He's a third.
Okay, maybe 6 is a bit of a stretch, but I do think you give for a 4th and possibly a 5th.
I think he's been good enough to where that's. I don't know his sack total at the moment, but come on. Do you have anyone else?
I think Atlanta makes sense. In Seattle, I think if I'm Seattle, I'd rather have Brian Burns than Chase Young. But I think possibly Seattle, because Seattle they don't have a premier pass rusher. Their defense line's like the one area of the team where it definitely has holes in. So I think Chase Young and Brian Burns would be a great fit there. But I think Brian Burns fits that team more and kind of, their culture. I think culture-wise, I think Brian Burns fits Seattle very well.
No, I think that's fine with Seattle. I also had Seattle. Atlanta, I feel like Atlanta.
Atlanta needs to get any pass rusher.
I think Atlanta needs more of the surefire guy. That's why I had them with Brian Burns. I think they need more of the surefire guy.
Yeah. So I think all these names are very interesting, and of course, there's other names that could be traded that we didn't talk about today. There was one name that Luke and I were talking about earlier today. That's Devontae Adams, and I know early, like about a week ago, I was like, oh, he's definitely going to be on the trade block because it just after his post-game press conference comments after the Pittsburgh game was like, this guy definitely wants out. They did beat the Packers, but
they have an easy schedule coming up. That's my thing. Very Kirk Cousins-y to me.
So Raiders play New England.
They can win.
At Chicago.
They can win.
At Detroit.
Okay, you're probably not winning that.
Versus Giants.
I think at that point you're not going to beat the Giants, but there's a shot.
Well, I guess the trade deadline the 31st of October?
Yeah, 31st.
Okay, so the Giants game would come after that. But, okay, if they lose to New England.
Yeah, if you lose New England.
I'm taking calls.
Yeah.
Because the way if Chicago puts another performance out this week, like they had the last 2 weeks, especially Justin Fields, I'm not going to have a lot of faith that they beat the Bears.
Can you imagine they went through? Oh, man, that'd be nuts. That'd be funny.
I would love it. And then I'm rooting so hard for Panthers to win some games. Or if Justin Fields gets a chance somewhere else, I'll be happy with that too. But I'm just tired of the slander.
Not Atlanta.
I like Atlanta.
If Atlanta's trained for anyone, it's Kirk Cousins.
I'm saying like next offseason.
Yeah, go sign Kirk Cousins.
But yeah.
Atlanta's either signing a vet like Kirk Cousins who's they're keeping Ritter, drafting quarterback, or signing a vet like Kirk Cousins. I just want to
The thing is, and this is totally off topic of what our discussion is today, but I don't think I think they're another one of these teams where they either make the playoffs or they barely miss because their division's bad, and they end up with like 7-8 wins.
Yes, and so you go get either a rookie, you keep Ritter, or you get a guy who you know is top 12.
Here's the thing, because I think Caleb Williams, Drake, and I think Caleb Williams is the only guy who can be ready year one to play.
Okay, but that's not even the point.
My point is if you're Atlanta, so let's say you draft Quinn Ewers. And I don't, like I said before earlier in the show, is Quinn Ewers the guy that you throw?
That's the path you go. That's the path.
Okay, that's Desmond Ridder and Quinn Ewers, and I think that'd be like.
Or you go pick Kirk Cousins.
Well, of course, yeah, but I'm saying if you go the draft route.
I think that's fine. It's not the most win now, but it's fine. It's building more for the future.
We kind of got sidetracked there, but now after we discuss these trade candidates, we'll now move into Week 6 predictions and our picks. First game of the week. Broncos at Chiefs. Chiefs are minus 10.5, and the over is 47.5.
I mean, I'm going to go Chiefs. Broncos have played Chiefs close lately, but obviously that was with a good defense last year, but also Chiefs dropped like 37 and barely won last year. So
they did win by 7 in that game, I believe.
Yeah, I mean, but it was close. It was
34-27. It was 27-0, and I believe Chiefs won like 34-27.
Yeah, but it got like Broncos had a chance to win. It was a funky game. So I'm going to go Chiefs. I don't think they cover. I think they'll maybe get close. I don't know. I don't think they cover, but they win. They win to where it's not like, oh, scary, but they don't cover.
Yeah, I think Chiefs win, and I think there is potential here that they blow the Broncos out. But like you said, and I think the argument that they play Chiefs close, it's true. But Denver has had a very good defense those years, and Chiefs' defense was not that great.
I
And now it's Chiefs.
I just had a thought. I'm sorry. Is Nathaniel Hackett? Is he like really good against the Chiefs? Think about last year. Broncos offense played well twice, and then the Jets offense played well against the Chiefs.
I mean, yeah,
Hackett oddly may have Spagnuolo's number. I just had that thought.
Well, no, he was fired the second time Broncos played the Chiefs.
Never mind.
Yes. So, and I'm not giving Nathaniel Hackett any credit for anything. That guy.
Never mind.
I think Chiefs have a lot of potential to blow out the Broncos, but I think Chiefs probably end up winning by 8 to 9 points if they don't cover. So I think they barely don't cover, but I think they win pretty comfortably regardless. London game, and then another underwhelming London game this week. Ravens at Tennessee, or Ravens against Tennessee, and Ravens are 4-point favorites.
The Ravens had all those drops. They should have beat the Steelers. The Ravens, I still think they can be really good. They're just disappointing right now, and they've been hurt. So I think Ravens should be fine with this one. I think they're going to have a bounce-back game. If anything, I think this is pass catch is going to be much better. They're hearing it. I think this is a big Ravens win. I think they cover solidly.
I think, Tennessee, the weak spot on their team is the pass game. So I think if there was a team where the Ravens need a bounce-back game for the receivers, it is the Titans. And I'm with you. I think Ravens cover the spread, and I think they win, maybe not by double digits, but I think by 7 to 8 points they win. Because Tennessee's always a team that keeps games close.
They are.
Next game, Washington, Atlanta, and Atlanta is 2.5-point favorites.
I like Atlanta here. I think they built some momentum last week. They should have scored 30, but they had some fumbles. I think if their offense, you got to make sure, because Washington still has a solid pass rush, so the offensive line has to play well. But I think Atlanta has a secondary to somewhat contain Washington's receivers, because, they don't ever get targeted like they should. It's ridiculous how much Logan Thomas got targeted. But I like the Falcons. Maybe their pass rush. Maybe Calais Campbell gets that 100th sack against a struggling offensive line in Washington. So, yeah, I'll take the Falcons, and they should cover 2.5.
Yeah, I believe Sam Howell's been sacked 19 times so far this year, and it may be more than that. I may be wrong on that. I think Atlanta is like I said earlier, in comfortable game scripts and games where they could control the time of possession and run the ball, I think is a great formula for them to win. So I think Atlanta wins, and I think they cover the spread, of course, 2.5. I think if they win this game, they could easily win by a field goal or 4 points. So I like Atlanta at home this week, and their defense is also very solid in the back end. And Washington, I don't trust Ron Rivera, and they're not, like you said. Jahan Dotson needs to be way more involved. All the targets he gets are underneath, and you saw last year he could definitely be a dynamic receiver down the field. So I like Atlanta this week.
Mm-hmm.
Minnesota at Chicago. Vikings are favored by 2.5.
I think I'm going to surprise you. Chicago.
Wow.
Not, dude, I don't like
Minnesota. Is Luke finally?
No. Minnesota's. I do not like Minnesota's defense, and I think Justin Fields is going to have another game. Still not sold, but no. But I think
what? How many weeks? What does Justin Fields have to do?
A good defense. He's facing 3 of the worst defenses in a row, and the problem with Justin Fields is, I know the other weapon. Mooney is a serviceable receiver. He needs to have a good game.
I know, but outside of DJ Moore and
a lot of those passes, DJ Moore did most of the work. He had some nice.
No, I realize that, but my point is, outside DJ Moore and Mooney and Kmet.
Okay, that's 3 solid guys, and then people can fill in.
But okay.
People can fill in. So that's. He has a lot more to prove. Can't just have DJ Moore.
No, I know. I'm just saying how many more weeks of
It's not about how many weeks, Logan. It's about proving against real defense and with your eyes. He had nice throws, but at the same time, DJ Moore was playing unholy.
So after this week, the Bears face the Raiders, and then they're at the Chargers.
Another bad defense. Another bad defense. They face bad defenses. I don't like the Chargers.
Okay,
defense.
New Orleans.
Yeah, sure. I think their defense is overrated, but they're fine. But back to my pick. Vikings. I mean, I like Kirk a lot. I think this is going to be high scoring. The over-under is 45.5. I think that hits.
Oh, I take the over easy.
I think it's going to be – I think the Bears are going to run the ball really well, even without Khalil Herbert. They have Roshan Johnson and Foreman, who's serviceable. But I have the Bears. I think it'll be close. That Vikings defense. The Bears have momentum. That Vikings defense is not good. Their hearts are probably shattered right now. So give me the Bears. But I could also see Kirk Cousins at the same time just having like a really nice game. Just being like,
it is at noon, so no pressure on Kirk Cousins. I think Bears win, and I think if you're betting, very good value to bet on the Bears. Mm-hmm. I think this is a game where it could easily be. I think this game plays out two ways. Either Chicago jumps out to a big lead, like they have the past 2 weeks, and similarly to the last 2 weeks, they almost blow the lead, or it's just close the entire time and Chicago finds a way to win.
So I think Minnesota wins?
No. Those are two ways that Chicago wins. Oh. I think it's either this game is super close the whole time. I should have phrased it better. I think it's either a game where Chicago has a big lead, or it's just close the entire time.
That's not a big lead, but I think they jump out. Or if it's close the whole time, I'm going to say Kirk gets it done. But I think Chicago gets it early.
But I think Chicago wins this game, and I think they can win by 5-6 points. But I do think it's going to be a game at the end where the Chicago defense may have to make a stop at the end. But I think missing Justin Jefferson will be relevant in that case.
I don't want to give Kirk too much time. If there's 2.5 minutes and he has to go score, I'm probably taking Vikings in that scenario. But I have a Chicago feeling. I think it'll be – and then maybe Kirk's last game as a Viking. And I'm excited to see what happens with him.
Interesting game. I think probably I would say best game of the week or second best. Seattle at Cincinnati, and Cincinnati are favored by 2.5.
This is an interesting one, but I still don't like Cincinnati a ton because they had a little more issues with Arizona, and Jamar had to go off. But I think I like Bengals to pull this one out. That may be one where you can bet Bengals, but then bet Seahawks to cover in a weird close one. But I think I saw enough from Burrow where it's okay, playing him maybe it was iffy, but I think he's getting back there. I mean, he had a couple scrambles. He's definitely not Joe Shiesty scrambling around, but he looks better. So, and I still don't know how much I love Seattle. I mean, the Giants were a mess, and they weirdly stayed in it a little longer than they should have. Seattle's offense really couldn't take it home like they should have against a struggling Giants defense. So I'm gonna take Bengals. I'm gonna take Bengals. I feel pretty good in it.
This is a really tough game to pick because Seattle is coming off a bye week, and it's basically 2 bye weeks when you face the Giants the previous week. But I think, Jamar Chase went off last week, and I think Seattle has a very good cornerback tandem. And I think unlike Arizona, they're going to be smart and just double chase, especially if Higgins isn't playing. Just double chase. And yeah, you may give up yards to other people, but if Higgins isn't playing, I'm definitely doubling Chase every single
time. Tyler Boyd game. It's my bet. Tyler Boyd game. It's been a while.
But this is such a tough game to pick because I still think Bengals are a must win. Because I think if you lose this week and Baltimore wins, you're suddenly 2 games back again.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I'm going to pick Cincinnati, but I'm definitely not confident in that pick. I think Seattle could definitely steal this game because they're coming off a bye, and I think they have the corners to handle Jamar Chase in this offense. So I think it's going to come down to Seattle's pass rush. If they can get to Joe Burrow, I think they win this game, but I think Cincinnati pulls it out.
Yeah, it should be good.
Next game, and this line has moved 3.5 points since Monday night. 49ers at Browns, and the Niners are favored by 7.
Well, the Deshaun Watson thing is a big thing. I haven't been huge on Deshaun Watson, but I think we clearly saw with DTR, he is a rookie. I think what was proven is that preseason. Man, I think as football fans, we're so. Stroud was terrible.
I know. We're so hungry for football that we overreact to every training camp report. I mean, there's never a negative report coming out of training camp. Everybody looks like, oh, they're taking the next step. And in preseason, I think you can't really look into it. It's 1 or 2 drives in a game. So I think, moving forward, I think we just have to stop taking so much away from preseason training camp. And just,
yeah, I agree. Just like Pickett was amazing. DTR was. I'm not saying DTR is going to be bad, but he's a rookie. He got exposed. But I think Niners win this. The Niners, they're the best team in football, and I don't think it's close.
I don't think anybody can stop the 49ers right now the way they're playing.
If they're healthy in the playoffs,
I think they run. I think they run through. If teams are still playing the way they and Eagles will definitely, I think, be better by the playoffs.
I think the Lions are a better matchup for the Niners than the Eagles are. Oddly enough.
Wait, you're saying you think Lions give 49ers a tougher game? Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
I kind of think I still trust
Lions, but I like Lions have a better shot.
Yeah,
Lions, their creativeness. Eagles aren't as creative on offense. They're very run the ball, throw it up to A.J. Brown.
I still think Eagles, because just Jared Goff, his mobility, I think 49ers could definitely swallow, just
the Lions
have to dominate, but
have an offensive line, man. I think they can hold them off enough. But that's besides the point. That is an interesting conversation. But I assume you're also picking Niners. I mean, that's pretty easy. They're so.
Oh yeah, I think that I bet them on Tuesday. Got them at 4.5. I would still take them at -7, and I think right now you should jump on that before another day of practice passes by and Deshaun Watson is either not practicing or just severely limited. Because I think if Deshaun Watson doesn't play this game, I think the line could jump up to 10.
It's a lot.
If he doesn't,
it's a lot for a good defense in the Browns. It's a lot, but.
I mean, Baltimore beat the Browns with a good defense by wasn't it 28-3 or something like that or something?
Okay, yeah, but that's DTR's first game, and that's.
Well, I guess he wouldn't be playing. They have
PJ Walker.
Yeah, so he'd be playing. So maybe it wouldn't jump up to that, but I still think
Purdy. I mean, it's okay, he's really good.
I don't want to say really good, but he's definitely better than I thought he was. But I'm not going to say because I think I saw.
I say really good. I mean, he's in that. He may be in that Kirk range, and
yeah, I don't know if he's top 10 yet. People are saying
I'm not gonna say that yet. I'm not gonna say that but you don't need to be top 10 to win MVP.
I just want him to play in a game, and I'm not trying to take anything away from him. I just want to see him in a game where there's some adversity. And I know you say
he just can't go undefeated in every game he plays fully, but okay, whatever. He hasn't lost a game he's played fully in.
Okay. I understand. I just want to see a game where he's
top 10. His team is. He may be.
I mean, I'd probably take him over Dak.
Yeah.
Okay.
Take him over Deshaun Watson.
I'm not gonna say that yet. I think that's a bit too soon.
If I had to do it right now, I'd say if I had to win one game right now, tomorrow, it'd be Purdy. But I think Watson may still revamp. So, but right now, Purdy is currently a better player than Watson, in my opinion.
I'm not ready to say that yet, but another conversation for another day. Panthers at Dolphins.
I mean,
Dolphins favored by 13.5. This game isn't about who you pick. It's about if they cover that spread.
I mean, yeah, they're going to cover. I think they cover. I mean, they could screw up and you never know, but I'd pick them to cover.
Yeah. I think they cover pretty easily. I don't think
Panthers are 40.
Yeah, this game could be over by halftime. I mean, it's not going to be the Denver game. You're not going to see Miami drop 70, but I could definitely see, 28-0 or 31-0.
You also see the Miles Sanders stat? He's one of the worst at.
No, Chuba Hubbard in the last 2 weeks has outsnapped Miles Sanders.
That's not a good signing.
Yeah. So, and I don't think it's all Miles Sanders. I also think the
obviously not. Yeah.
I think the offense line's also very bad, but yeah. Next game, and this is kind of an interesting game, and I think it could be trickier than people think. Colts at Jaguars. Jaguars are -4.
Dude, this is the Gardner Minshew revenge game. That's what's fun. That makes me I'm gonna pick Jaguars, but it's Gardner Minshew pulls off some stupidity and wins. I just not be surprised because it's his little revenge game. But I'm gonna take Jaguars. They're the better team. I do like what I've seen. If Jonathan Taylor's, I know Zach Moss has been good, but Jonathan Taylor's much better. So that adds a little interesting to intrigue to it, but I'm going to take Jaguars. But like if I had like a bet where it's like I put a solid amount of money on it, I wouldn't put Jags money line on it.
Well, I did that. And I put some solid money on it. So yeah, we don't need to talk about that though. I'm still very upset by Monday night, and I don't know why I'm even bringing it up because I'm so sad.
Not you. That's all you.
I'm gonna take Jags in this game. I think Josh Allen. I think he's the key to this game. If he can continue creating pressures, and he should have had another sack last week. That roughing the passer call on Bills quarterback Josh Allen in London was so soft.
That's terrible.
But I think this game's gonna come down to Jacksonville's pass rush, and I think Jaguars may have found their rhythm this past week. And I don't know if Zay Jones actually plays this week, so that's something to keep an eye on. But I think Jacksonville at home, the thing is both teams are 3-2, so you're not going to – week one, Jaguars may win their lackadaisical because they thought, oh, we just walk in and win. But I think at this point they're both 3-2, and you want to win this game, divisional game. So I think Jaguars win this game. I'm not sure if they cover, but I do believe they win this game.
Definitely scared about the cover, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Saints at Texans, and Saints are only -1.5. That's kind of amazing. They just, Houston the last few years has not been good. But I go ahead.
Saints have the best record of any team that straight up sucks. I think the Saints suck. I'm so out on the Saints. I think the car isn't good.
I don't know why. Okay, to be honest, I think they should be starting Jameis Winston.
That's bold, but maybe.
I'm not saying because they're
hard to do. It's hard to do.
He's definitely hurt.
No, I understand that, but I'm taking.
I'm not saying from the talent.
The Texans are a better team. I don't care if the Saints are above 500. They're like bottom 8 team to me. I like Stroud bounce back. I think the Falcons game was a good learning experience. Again, I think the Saints defense is good, but not what people are saying. I think
I think it's an old defense that's just been given.
Kim Jordan is on K. Adams' show. I didn't watch the video, but it's like, is this the best defense he's ever played on? It's like, whoa, they had some pretty good. Like, no. So I like Texans. I think Stroud has a good game. I think it will be close because Stroud's a rookie, but I think he comes away with the win, and I think Derek Carr does something to screw it up.
I think if Stroud doesn't turn over the ball in this game, they win by a touchdown. Like I really think if he can take care of because I think Texans, if they don't turn the ball, they're going to move on the Saints defense. And I think they have 3 very capable receivers in Houston. And their pass protection has been very good, much better than I thought it was going to be, even with injuries to offensive line. And they're at home. I like Stroud to move the ball a lot in this game. And I'm not saying they're going to drop like 30 or anything like that, but I do think they'll be comfortable in this game. And I still like the Saints offense. Chris Olave had 2 catches for 12 yards last week.
He did drop a ball, but yeah.
Yeah.
The Patriots are so beat up. They're not even a good defense. They were a good defense to start the year. They're broken.
Yeah. But I don't like what I'm seeing from Saints. Outside of like their supposedly very good defense, I don't think there's an argument that this team's actually good. I think they've been facing low-tier competition. So I like the Houston Texans this week to cover and upset the Saints.
Yep, agreed.
Next game, and I'm not watching a second of this game. You have to pay me so much money to watch this game. Patriots at Raiders, mid and cheese against Jimmy Garoppolo. Raiders -3.
I'm picking against the Patriots. They're just hurt. Like Judon's not playing, Gonzalez not. They're hurt. I mean, their whole cornerback rotation's hurt, and then the one guy they draft who's like going to be a stud is hurt. Raiders don't have corners, so I can see like Devontae Parker having like an oddly good game. Like I think this hits the over. I think I like the over here. It's 41.5.
I mean, if Mac Jones is spotting you 2 touchdowns.
The Raiders have weapons. Here's the thing. It is Bill Belichick against McDaniel, so that gives me some pause because maybe Bill has the system unlocked. Have they played each other yet? Since he left?
They played each other last year.
How'd that – oh, yeah, and the Raiders won off of the ridiculousness.
Yeah.
And they played – and like, maybe a Jacoby Myers revenge game. He's so underrated. I am happy I've been vindicated on Jacoby Myers being an underrated receiver. But the Patriots screwed up by signing Juju and then letting him go. That was just dumb. That was dumb. But I like Jimmy G here. I think we get a huge Devontae game.
I think Devontae has a huge bounce back game. I think they're going to force
33-24 game. Like I think this hits the over solidly.
Here's the thing.
All the Patriots have to do is block Max Crosby, and they can drop over 20. And then the Patriots are so hurt. The Raiders' offense has a lot of talent.
I think the only way the Patriots keep this game close is just by out-scheming, outsmarting.
I think Max has a offense. Max has a solid game.
Here's the thing. I think Raiders should win this game, and I'm going to pick the Raiders. But weird. God, Jimmy G, dude, watching that guy play quarterback,
big Jimmy G game.
The guy, when you watch him in the pocket and you watch his feet, if he doesn't get the ball out within 2 seconds, he starts panicking. Just watch his feet, and you could tell that he just does not.
Yeah, I think he's still one of those quarterbacks who I think 4 games a year looks really good. I think this is one of those games. I
mean, if Bill Belichick could find a way just to, trick Jimmy G will throw 2 to 3 passes that should be intercepted. I mean, having the Packers game, he threw one that was in triple coverage, and then another one should have been picked off. I do think Raiders win, and I think the only way is if Bill Belichick pulls a rabbit out of his hat, but I just don't see it happening, and Mac Jones is terrible. I don't care what.
He's going to have a good game, but he's still going to lose.
I think Raiders win, but I'm not touching this game at all.
This next game?
I did, and I'm quite upset that I think I bet the Rams yesterday, but I didn't. I should have jumped on them sooner. Rams at home against the Cardinals, and Rams are -7. And I believe this line
can't be just because of James Conner.
I think it is because before the week started, Rams were 3.5-point favorites.
That's a lot for a running back. It's a lot.
I believe it was like 3.5 before that injury.
I mean, I'm taking Rams, but that's still a lot. Mm-hmm. I picked up Rams defense and Stafford for my fantasy team, and I'm gonna have Puka playing. So I'm all in on the Rams this game.
I'm picking Cardinals to win this game. Then what's gonna happen now.
That's a lot. 7's a lot. And that's a lot, especially maybe the Cardinals fall apart, and it's just like that happens a lot. I feel like in the NFL, teams who are expected to be the clear first pick have like a solid start, and then they fall back.
Yeah,
maybe that happens. But I like Rams. Cooper Kupp, it's just back. I mean, he looks really good. Puka still Puka showed he's still good.
Mm-hmm.
That I think the Cardinals are gonna have a tough time stopping the Rams. So I'm going Stafford and the Rams.
I think Rams win. I don't think they necessarily cover though.
Yeah,
because I don't trust their defense. Right now it's a very young defense. I think Cardinals probably keep it close, but I do like the Rams. And I think the Rams kind of get their run game going this week. Last week they faced Philly and didn't really run the ball that much, but I think they're going to run the ball a lot this week, and I think Cooper Kupp will dominate as well. So I think Rams win. I just don't think they cover.
I think Rams are going to trade for a running back. I don't know who it'll be or how good he'll be, but I like Kyren Williams has been fine, but they're going to get someone better than Kyren Williams. Sorry to your fantasy team, Logan, but
I hope that doesn't happen. So these next 3 weeks, just hopefully they don't trade for anybody. But yeah, it's interesting, but I don't know what names are out there, like Derrick Henry.
I think they can find someone.
Next game, Eagles at Jets, and the Eagles are favored by 7.
No Vera Tucker for the Jets. That's brutal. God, their line is terrible. I mean, why does New York have like the 2 worst offensive lines in football? Like, why? So, I mean, I'm taking Eagles.
They're always drafting quarterbacks with their first picks. The Jets.
Should have drafted. I mean, the Giants drafted 2 tackles. One of them's really good, but he's hurt, and the other one is getting flamed on social media for calling out fans and then missing blocks. And Mekhi Becton was solid at first when he's hurt, and Vera Tucker's really good, but he's hurt. They just get hurt over there. Turf field. I don't know if it's a turf field. Were Jets even at home? I don't know. Maybe it's
this past week. No, they're at Denver.
Yeah, so I can't blame turf on that, but who knows? But I'm taking Eagles. Eagles still. I'm waiting for them to lose. They should lose. I think they should lose. They're going to lose to a team at some point who they just shouldn't lose to.
We'll see. It's not this week. I'll tell you that. Their defensive line will dominate this game. And Breece Hall had a really good game last week. That's not happening again.
It sucks for Zach Wilson.
This game is going to be – I think Eagles cover this. Like if I'm betting on this game, I betted Eagles money line. But one of these bets I'm going to put Eagles -7 because I don't think Jets can keep up in this game. Especially, I don't think Zach Wilson's going to have any time to throw. And
What
with
if
Zach
the
Wilson,
Jets
you need to get the
do
running
a
game
good job
going.
against the run, though? And I
What's
don't.
that?
The Jets can limit the run game.
That's okay. I still think Zach Wilson's going
I think it could be like a low scoring. Like I think the over under 41's an interesting number because it's like they've just been AJ Brown dependent. What if it's not a big AJ Brown game?
I think you see a Devontae Smith. Devontae Smith's been kind of quiet. I think this is a Devontae Smith game.
Maybe.
I think he gets unleashed. So I think Eagles cover pretty easily in this one.
Mm-hmm.
Next game, Lions at the Buccaneers, and Lions are favored by 3.
You know, this is a good one. This is a good game, but I like the Lions a lot. I'm rolling with the Lions. Goff is playing really well. Is Amon-Ra, what's been the situation?
He practiced today, and he's expected to play.
Okay, so they'll be fine. I think Lions will be fine. It's kind of a big Baker game. I
think this game, I think we learn a lot about if the Buccaneers are a real team this year, a real contender this year or not.
They don't need a win. They just need they need to put fight into it. And I think they will. I think it'll be a good game, but I got Lions.
I think this game is the game we kind of see Baker Mayfield come down to earth a little bit. And that's not going to say the rest of the season he struggles, but I do think they're kind of on a high road right now, and they're kind of a bye. I think, and Mike Evans, I think he'll be fine. There hasn't been any other updates on his hamstring injury that he suffered a couple weeks ago, but the bye week came out at a good time for them. I think this is a week where the Lions give Baker Mayfield some troubles, and I would definitely take the Lions -3. I think they could win this game by a touchdown, but it's not a detriment to the Buccaneers are saying that they're going to be garbage the rest of the year. I think this is a kind of game where they come back down to earth, and the Lions take advantage of that.
Lions can't mess around, though. They can't mess around.
Oh, my God.
Okay, we're taking the Bills.
I know, but the fact this is a primetime game, the Giants at Bills -14.
Yeah, sucks. Maybe.
What was the NFL thinking by giving Giants all these primetime games?
Well, they didn't know the offensive line was going to be horrific, Logan.
They also fell into Daniel Jones paying $40 million trap.
He has the worst offensive line in football, and you haven't acknowledged that once. You're just like, Daniel Jones. He has the worst offensive line in football.
Okay, that's true, but
they have no weapons. Worst offensive line. Saquon's hurt.
I've been told Isaiah Hodgins before the year was a good receiver.
Logan, what's Patrick Mahomes' record in this situation with the Giants? He loses to Dallas. He loses to San Fran. Probably loses to Seattle, Miami. This is about what you could be.
Okay, but we got to bring him on.
I don't need to hear it every time. Bills are gonna win. It's not a discussion.
Do you take Bills? Do you think Bills cover?
No, I think Giants lose by 12.
See, I don't know. I don't think Daniel Jones plays. There's no point playing Saquon. Darren Waller's hurt. I'm not sure what's happening to the offensive line. If that's still the same situation, or
I think it'll just be a weird game.
Bills come off a loss at home. I think Bills.
Okay, but they're in London. They're at home in this game.
I'm saying they're at home in this game. I think they absolutely destroy the Giants.
I wouldn't bet the line.
Yeah, I would. If I were somebody betting the line, I would do an alternate spread if you were going to bet the line.
Mm-hmm.
Next game, very interesting game. Monday night, Dallas at the Chargers, and the Cowboys are getting 2.5 points, or they're favored by 2.5 points.
As much as I would like to bet the Chargers because everyone hates the Cowboys, I think the Cowboys. I don't know. We don't know how healthy Herbert's going to be with his hand. Eckler coming back is huge, but you don't have Mike Williams now. Chargers offensive line, I think Corey Linsley, I don't know if he's healthy yet. I say Cowboys win a close, weird, ugly, not low scoring, but kind of high scoring, but still
27-23 or 20.
Something weird where it's just ugh. So I got Cowboys, sadly.
If the Chargers had any other coach than Brand Staley, this should be such. This should be such a win. You're coming off a bye. The Cowboys just got beat up by the Niners, and I'm not just saying score, but physically they get beat up. And there's a stat last year. Teams that faced the 49ers the following week were winless in games.
That's weird.
Because I think 49ers beat teams up physically because they are a physical football team. They run the ball, and even Debo is built like a running back, a receiver, and he punishes defenders. So I'm going to take the Chargers in this game. I'm not confident at all. I think the Chargers should win this game, but because of Brent Staley,
They don't win games they should. Like even pre-Brent, they just don't do it. So I'm taking Cowboys.
yeah, I think they'll come off a bye. And we saw this last year when they have time to prepare. So last year when they faced Miami, that Sunday night game, Brand Staley actually gave the NFL a code on how to sort of stop the Dolphins' offense, and you kind of saw a formula that the teams started using the rest of the year. I think this may be one of those types of games where he, out of the blue, figures out a way to even get the Cowboys early
smart,
more.
but it's just he shouldn't be a head coach.
No, yeah, but I think Chargers win this game at home, and I know it's not really a home game. There'll probably be plenty of Dallas fans there. It's also on turf, which Dallas's defense is very fast on turf. But Dallas' defense also got beat up in that 49ers game. There's a number of players that came out of that game with injuries.
I think they're hurt.
So I like the Chargers this weekend. Getting Eckler back is huge. I love the value betting the Chargers here. I think it's good value.
I see.
Yeah. So that will do it for our episode this week. Next week, we aren't sure what our topic will be, but for those who watch, we are always open to you leaving comments and suggestions on what topics we should talk about. So if you ever want to leave a comment on anything that we should talk about or cover, we are always open to that. But make sure to like the video and subscribe.